everybody, and today I'm doing a review of Netflix's newest movie, Enola Holmes. The movie is based on the book series by the same name. I haven't read the books, so I'm not basing this movie on if it's a good adaptation. I'm just basing it on if it's a good movie. Also, Enola Holmes takes place in the same universe as Sherlock Holmes because Enola is Sherlock's younger sister. Also, I'm going to keep this review spoiler free, as I do for all my reviews. This movie is about Enola Holmes, who is Sherlock Holmes' younger sister, and when her brothers Mycroft and Sherlock come to visit her, but wait, their mom goes missing. Ooh. And then Enola sets on an adventure to try and find her. One thing I really liked about this movie is the way they utilized Sherlock. Like, they didn't shove him in your face just because he's a well-known character. They use him spiritively. Like, you see him in small bits throughout the movie, and that's much better than just shoving him into your face, because Netflix could have easily just turned this into another Sherlock movie. But I'm glad they didn't. They made it an Enola Holmes movie. And when you're watching the movie, you can clearly tell this is an Enola story, not a Sherlock movie. You can tell that he's involved in the story, but you can tell that this is an Enola story. Like, you don't see Sherlock joining her on the adventure and that kind of thing. He kind of has his own role in the movie, just like she has her own role. And that's much better than just shoving him into the movie just because he's a well-known character. One thing I gotta say about Sherlock in this movie, I didn't really like this version of Sherlock. He's way too serious, and I much prefer a funny character over a serious character. That's why I prefer Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Sherlock Holmes way better than this version. And this version of Sherlock Holmes was played by Henry Cavill. I'm not too sure how to pronounce his surname, so sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. He's the guy who plays Superman, and he plays Sherlock in this movie. He does an alright job. His acting isn't bad or anything. He's just way too serious in the role. And sometimes he gets angry at his sister for no reason. I don't think he could handle his sister because she's young and smart, and he wanted his sister to be this way, meanwhile she's that way, and that was kind of annoying. But he's alright in the movie. You don't see him that much in the movie, so it's not too much of a problem. I just way prefer Robert Downey Jr.'s version because he's funny. But this guy does an alright acting job. His acting was decent. Millie Bobby Brown of Stranger Things fame plays Enola, and she is absolutely brilliant as Enola. It feels like she was born to play this role. She does the role so well. And one thing she did very well is she was very good at carrying the movie, because a lot of the scenes in this movie is just her going on an adventure alone. She does the adventure by herself, and a lot of the times it's just her in the movie, and she carries the movie very well. Never throughout the whole movie, I never got bored of seeing her. She did a very good job with carrying the movie. Because sometimes in other movies, when you only see one character for most of the film, you get kind of sick of seeing them. But throughout the whole movie, I never got sick of seeing her because she did such a good job at carrying the movie and keeping it exciting and interesting. But one thing I do think this movie lacked was with the humor. This movie wasn't really that funny. There were some movies where I maybe giggled or smiled and had a smirk, but there weren't ever laugh out loud moments. It was just kind of or I see where they're going with that joke, but it wasn't really a funny movie. But the story was good enough where you weren't really worrying about the humor, because some movies rely way too much on the humor and then the story lacks. But this movie had a good story, so when it wasn't really funny, when they weren't trying to be funny, it was still entertained. They also did some fourth wall breaks in this movie, and those fourth wall breaks weren't funny like they do in the Deadpool films. They were more just informing the audience, because when Enola would break the fourth wall and talk to the audience, she was more just telling the audience where she was going or what she was doing. Those scenes to me kind of felt like I was watching a YouTuber's vlog, because a lot of times in YouTubers' vlogs they normally explain to the audience where they're going or what they're doing, and that's most of the time what she did. She did do some stuff that felt like you were watching Dora the Explorer, where she would tell the audience what do you think, or do you have any ideas, that kind of thing. I don't know, I'm just watching the movie, I don't know, I'm not the detective, you, I don't know. It felt kind of like that, but she did a good job with those kind of scenes, and she brought energy to those scenes. She brought lots of energy to those fourth wall scenes when she said like, "What do you think?" Like she brought lots of energy, which was good. What do you think of this review? Leave it in the comments down below. Another thing this movie did very well was with its visuals. Because what I find with a lot of live action movies is their visuals aren't really that nice to look at. Animated movies do this much better where they focus a little bit more on their visuals. But this movie's visuals were absolutely amazing and very pleasant to look at. Like they had nice cool old school architecture to look at and lots of nature like big fields and that kind of stuff was very nice to look at. And even when she wasn't in nature, even just the town was nice to look at because they had nice architecture to look at, like old school architecture, and they had like the way this movie was filmed also very nice. Like they had nice different angles they used and all that kind of stuff was very nice. I even like looking at nature because in a lot of movies you don't really see nature that much, but in this movie they had a nice blend of man-made stuff and a bit of natural nature stuff, which I really liked. They had a good blend of both. One thing I gotta say that was bad about this movie is the villain sucked. This movie's villain sucked. Like, we didn't know the reasons why he was doing this stuff. We didn't know why he was after Enola. He kind of just randomly showed up for no reason. Though the fight scenes in was absolutely nice to watch. Like, they were choreographed very nicely and that kind of stuff. And one thing I liked is they didn't really use weapons in their fight scenes. Though the villain did have a gun. He did have a gun in like a few of the fight scenes. But most of the time they're doing some jujitsu. And the jiu-jitsu is really cool to look at. And it's also cool to see jiu-jitsu in the streets because my dad is a jiu-jitsu coach. So I've seen jiu-jitsu in like gyms and at competitions all the time. I've really seen it being done in the streets, and seeing it done in the streets I thought was very cool to watch. And another bad thing I have to say about this movie is the pacing with this movie was a bit off for some reason. This movie was only 2 hours, but it felt like 2 hours and a half. It kind of felt like an extra half an hour was added on for like no reason. And that's because the beginning of this movie was super fast paced, and then as we got to the middle of this movie it kind of slowed down. And when it slowed down it felt very slow. Like it felt very boring and I kind of got a bit sleepy and got a bit uninterested in the film. But as we got to the end the speed picked up a bit. That's only one thing I kind of felt bad. I feel like if they made this movie a bit shorter, like maybe an hour and a half, this movie would be much better. But besides that, this movie was very enjoyable. I enjoyed watching it. So yeah guys, what would I rate this movie from 1 to 10? I'll give this movie a 6. This movie is better than average. Do I recommend you go watch it? If you have Netflix at your house, I recommend watching it. It's just a fun movie. It's easy to watch. It's enjoyable. So if you have Netflix, it's worth checking out. But I don't think it's worth getting Netflix just to watch this movie. There's much better stuff to spend your time watching. But that's all I got to say. Please like, share, comment and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on Enola Holmes if you've watched it, and if you've read the books Enola Holmes, please let me know if this was a good adaptation. That's all I got to say. Peace! Oh no! Someone drank all my juice, you monster! Now I gotta go on an adventure to solve the mystery of who drank all my juice. Let's go! I wanna find that bastard who drank all my juice now!